all of the
Yeah,
footage.
yeah.
And
Yeah, let me know what the clap means. What is that like? Do we all do it or like?
No.
no, it's just so that when I go to put the
Oh,
camera
I see what you're
audio
saying.
is
I know.
gonna be so
Pablo
much
told me,
worse
yeah.
than the actual
Okay.
audio we're using here, and so it's just best to clap so that you can sync up everything and that
My
way it's a
camera's
little
on,
bit
right?
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. All right, well, the audience isn't going to know this, but we just spent, 2 hours trying to figure out the camera situation and
Something like that.
and the
Growing pains.
micro SDs and all that good stuff. But
Walmart was about to get a serious complaint from me. I was
Lawsuit.
You were about to-
like,
you were about
"Yeah,
to-
come on."
you're about to go nuts on me. Before we start,
Yeah.
I assume that people that come check out the podcast, maybe it's their first time, whatever, but they're going to, generally speaking, I think people that are going to check you out for the first time are going to know y'all's names. This is going to be my introduction.
Okay.
I like
I have had this question for forever. What is your name?
Juan Pablo Torres.
And what is your name?
I already know where he's going with
John Michael Torres.
Do your parents realize you have the same first name?
Yeah.
Tell me, because I have had that question. It's been burning in me for a long time. And I don't know. Your parents are relatively smart people, so
think-
like what?
I think from what I know, the situation was that they liked the name John Michael together, and then they liked the name Juan Pablo together rather than John Paul. And then the
Yeah.
second part of it is that I think that I came out obviously pretty dark. He's a little darker, but I
You
came
guys
out
the
a lot.
same.
I came out. No. I'm serious. I came out a lot darker, and I think that they didn't think John Paul suited me because of how dark I was, and they were like, okay, let's give him something more
I feel like that's a little.
like.
I think they just like the name John Michael and Juan
But
Pablo.
that's the first
they
thing I said.
just-
I think
yeah.
that they liked the name. They liked the name John Michael. They didn't really love Juan Miguel, and I think that they liked Juan Pablo, and they
don't
didn't
like John Paul.
love John Paul. But then I don't know because I was named after a pope, Pope John Paul II.
Yeah, no, I figured. Yeah, I think.
And I don't know.
I'm Michael.
That's-
St. Michael the Archangel.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Has that?
I don't.
Has anyone ever asked you that question before? Because
Probably.
I give
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think so, yeah.
Because
Something like
that's
that.
been. I think I've asked your
Yeah.
sister a couple times.
But it's like
and-
on my birth certificate it says Juan Pablo, so I'm known as Juan. No one calls
Right.
me John, and no one would call him
So,
Juan.
I
no one
think-
would call him
I
Juan.
think-
Everyone would call him John Michael or John.
So you've been to Colombia, right? Your
Yeah,
parents are from
yeah,
Colombia.
a couple times.
You've been to Colombia. Do they call you John there? John
Like
Michael?
my parents or like
No,
the-
your family
Your
in
family
Colombia.
member in Colombia.
When you went,
I don't
when you
even
went as
know.
kids,
I
did they
think
call
they-
you John Michael or did they call you? I think they call him. They probably
think
call
they
him
call
John
me
Michael.
John Michael.
They probably call it John.
I don't even
Michael.
know. I don't remember. Like,
That's so funny. But like, can you see my dilemma? Or
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
in my
definitely.
mind,
I
I'm
really
like,
don't remember.
come on, your parents named you the same name. Like what?
Yeah, I know.
I honestly have no idea.
I honestly, yeah, we gotta get him on the pod and just ask him what happened. What's going on there.
man. Cool. So this is an endeavor that we're starting. That you guys are starting. You guys have brought me along.
Yeah.
Dragged you along.
I mean, yeah, kicking and screaming. How do you want to kick this off? Like, what? This is the introduction. To at least the podcast aspect
Yeah.
of what you guys got going
Yeah,
on.
I think I'll let Jamichael touch into it a little bit, but I think the vision that I had and the reason why I wanted to bring you on board with it as well was that I think we provide a lot of value to the soccer community, especially the ones that we work with now here in Atlanta with a lot of the youth here. And the reason why I say that I think we provide a lot of value is because, I have multiple years of having that professional experience and playing at that level and knowing what it takes to play at that level. And Jamichael has a different experience than me because he went the college route and he knows that experience of playing at the D1 college level and what it takes to get there. So with the kids that we work with, obviously a lot of them want to go pro, but the realistic thing is that not everyone can go pro, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of kids that are going to go down the college route and then maybe from the college route they go pro. So I think we provide two unique perspectives of the pro side and the college side.
Yeah.
And then the main thing that I wanted to get out of this was having realistic conversations with current pros, ex-pros, guys that play D1, if we get, D1 college players as well, and just kind of talking about what they can expect for the youth community, especially the kids that we work with, but pretty much anyone from around the world because we have a lot of followers that they can listen and they can kind of get a glimpse of the realistic side of the football world.
Yeah.
Whether that's playing professionally or whether that's playing collegially in order to help them, essentially.
Yeah.
So introduce, give the people a bit of your background. Like
Yeah.
who are you? Well, not who are you. I think people.
Yeah.
What's the resume in terms of your background?
Yeah. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. John Michael being one of my brothers. And we started our training program here in Atlanta, Torres Futbol Performance. My background in soccer, I turned pro when I was 18 years old, and I signed for a team in Europe and a team in Belgium. That was my first contract. I kind of knew I wanted that goal of playing in Europe from an early age. And then from there, I was there for about 2 years. I moved back home to the United States, and I signed for New York City Football Club in the MLS. And then I was there in New York City for 2 years, and the last 3 years of my career, I played in the USL Championship. So I've been around. I've been around the league. I'm a journeyman. Been around the league. Experience in Europe, experience in the MLS. Experience in the USL. So that's kind of like my resume as far as professionally, and then obviously my youth career. Started in local clubs around here in Georgia where I grew up until I eventually went pro.
And so for those who don't know, what is Torres Futbol Performance?
Torres Futbol Performance is a private training academy that my brother and I started. Our goal is to use our experience, to use our knowledge to help the youth community here, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So we work with kids from all the way from 5, 6 years old all the way to college players now. And just kind of enhance their skills, improve their athletic ability, improve their work on the ball, their soccer IQ, speed and agility. We do a variety of different things, and just trying to get them better and trying to help them reach their goals. And we work with kids from all different skill levels. So, kids that are just learning to touch a ball for the first time, and then kids that have been playing for 5, 6, 7 years, that are going to be playing D1, but they just want to get extra work in. That's just kind of like a little background of who we are and the what we provide to the kids here.
And Juan Michael, you talk about yourself a little bit.
One thing Paul forgot to mention as well, and it's really important, is that you played for a couple of years with the national team as well.
The national team. I did forget about that.
Won a CONCACAF tournament. You've done a lot, accomplished a lot with it. So
yeah, I did. I was trying to be humble.
No, yeah, I mean, me and Pablo grew up basically playing in the same teams. We started off, we were born in Lilburn, so we started off in a local rec league that our dad put us in, called GFC. I mean, I think I played there until I was about 11. I think 11 or 12, we moved to GSA, which is a bigger jump, bigger club, big reputation, a lot of good players. And then from there, I was there for about a year and a half, maybe a year at most. And Juan Pablo was at the DA. The league was called Development Academy, which was one of the best, the best league in the United States.
It was new that they started.
Yeah, it was new.
Yeah.
But that's what it now is, like the MLS Next. So that new league that a lot of kids joined, that's what the Development Academy was at the time. And Pablo was already there, and I was still playing at the ECNL level. And I knew I had to make that jump. The best players in the country were playing in that league, and I knew if I wanted to get any exposure and just develop my game and to make, whether pro or college, I knew I had to get into that level. And so, I tried out the next year. I made the team, and, ever since then I played at Georgia United, transferred to Concord my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then, from there I went to go play Division I college soccer for a little bit. And
Where'd you go play?
I played at Connecticut State University. And then I also played in the Division II level as well, locally in Clayton State, which was one of the best experiences of my life. And I can touch about that a little bit later on.
So this podcast for you guys is what is the podcast? What do you want? How do you want to expand on what you guys are doing with Torres Futbol Performance with this podcast? Like, how does that?
I think it's I think we can touch on just a variety of different things. We can talk about where soccer is heading in the United States, with youth soccer as well.
Yeah.
We can touch into, like I mentioned, having what I want to have on pro guys, ex-pro guys, that they share their experiences growing up playing soccer, their stories, because everyone's paths are all so different.
Yeah.
And Jermichael and I, we know that because we each had our own unique path. And then, one thing that I really kind of stress is that, a lot of parents sometimes, especially, because we work with different kids and with different parents, that they're so set that there has to be one way that their kid has to make it, whether it's to play college soccer, whether it's to play pro. And one thing that I try to stress, and Jermichael tries to stress as well, is that, it's not something that's set in stone, of this is the way you have to go. Everyone's different. Everyone, no matter where they go, whether it's D3, D2, D1, or pro, everyone has their own unique journey of how they get there. Mm-hmm. So, touching into your question about like where we kind of want to take this is just people sharing their testimonials, their experiences, like the shitty things that they went through in soccer, like those kind of things that people don't really talk about, but it's good to talk about it so that people can learn and people can hear it and be like, oh, this is what I can expect, or look at this person, he had it rough for 2 or 3 years, but then he made it out of there, and then he went on to go play wherever it might be. So I think that's one of the big things and the reason why I want to start this is why I want to start this, so that we can share those things and other players can share those things. Jermichael can share his experiences. I can share my experiences. Then we have someone on your side as well that sees it from a different viewpoint, because you never played soccer competitively. Let's just say obviously you're a big fan. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring you on board is because you bring a unique perspective that I wouldn't bring, because I've seen it from that up close and personal, whereas you see it from a different perspective as a fan and seeing it kind of from the background, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of some of the things, the reason why we want to start this, and different things that we kind of wanted to touch into.
So a little bit about me and why. I think this is why you brought me on. but yeah, you're right. I am a fan first and foremost. But on top of that, I was a credentialed media member for Atlanta United for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And then I think even longer for the U.S. men's national team. I didn't go to like every single game, but over the course of, 6-7 years, I went to a bunch. And so covered Atlanta United, covered the U.S. men's national team.
Your resume is just as much accomplished in that field than it is in
well,
ours.
I wrote for MLSsoccer.com. I wrote for Dirty South Soccer. I started a podcast while I was working at a sports talk radio station that hopefully some of you remember, because we don't really do it anymore. But Mouths of the South, the Mouths of the South podcast, which was, I think, the first. I'll say the first big podcast when it came to Atlanta United. It wasn't the only one that eventually came out, but it was, I think, the biggest at the time. And then eventually we got blown out of the water by Soccer Down Here and the other podcasts that have crept up. And we're long gone now, but for the most part, we could make a comeback. Who knows? But so that we did that for 2016 through right before COVID. We stopped after COVID.
Yeah.
And so that's my perspective on things. I think I have a good understanding of the media side of things and of course the fan side of things, because ultimately all the media members they're all fans.
Yeah.
And so
I think you have to be to want to follow it that closely.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can't be. Look, I'm spoiled now because I can't go to a game now without thinking, I don't want to deal with the people that people have to deal with when they go to games. I want to go to my cushy press box. I want cushy food. I don't want to pay for parking. All that good stuff, which is super spoiled to me. But that's the kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing is that I'm not saying I'm the best interview in the world, but I think part of the podcast experience, part of the media experience is being able to ask the right questions, being able to ask good questions.
Yeah.
And just to kind of pat the resume, I guess we with Mouths of the South, we had Darren Eales on at different. I think at least one point we had him in studio.
Yeah,
nice.
Alexi Lawless called into our show one time. We've had Taylor Twelman on. We've had Matt Doyle on. So we've Fernando Fiore. We've had who else?
Atlanta United players.
A couple United players. We had Julian Gressel when he first got drafted. Here's a funny story about that. I was actually upset that we got, because he was the second pick. I wanted Miles Robinson because he was the first pick that Atlanta United took. And instead they gave us Julian Gressel, which at the time I was like, oh my gosh, really? Why? Like, is anyone going to remember this guy's name? Like, who is this guy?
And he turns
into who Julian Gressel turns into. So that was a funny story. But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's why you brought me on, is because of that background and the perspective of a fan and kind of specifically when it comes to like the development side of things, I guess the curiosity of how we can get better as a country, we can just speak locally about Georgia specifically, how Georgia can be as big as soccer is here. It could be a massive hotbed for youth soccer, for soccer moving forward.
I think it is. I think it's getting there. You see the kids that are coming out of Atlanta United Academy, and that are moving on and that are playing at a high level. The homegrowns that they're signing, and then you look at Caleb Wiley that left, George Bello that left. I think the Atlanta soccer scene is really, really big. And I think there's a lot of youth community that play the game at a really high level. I think it needs to be more accessible for everyone, for sure. Because there might be a lot of kids that come from poor areas that don't have the money to necessarily play at these clubs that ultimately are expensive to play at.
Very expensive.
But I mean, I think Atlanta United is doing a good job with that too. Is obviously now that you have that MLS Next Pro system, where these kids can go into that environment, and it doesn't matter whether you have money or not, as long as you're a good player, they bring you in, and obviously they help you with those other things. Which is good, so I think all. We talk about all these variety of different things that we can touch on too, which is great. And then the most important thing too that I wanted to get out of these is just to have comfortable, casual conversations. I didn't want it to be, for example, I'm an ex-pro player, so I know what it feels like to give an interview where you feel like you have to give a political answer or just a general answer that's just not going to say anything too much, not going to say anything too little. It's just something to say. Right. And I want to make sure that we have players on here that can speak comfortably, speak freely, and just be in an environment that they feel like they can just talk and like we're having a conversation with no cameras, no microphones, anything. So I think that's something that a lot of people can expect to see with the different people that we have on.
My hope is that they get a very comfortable experience. Should we? Can I spoiler alert this? We've already done one interview.
Yeah.
And he came in and he said that it was a really cool environment.
Yeah. I was happy.
I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said it was a really cool environment as to how it all came together and the nature of the conversation was very free flowing. So not to toot our own horn, but
Yeah, no. And for the first time, I thought that was good. I thought
that
was
me
good.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So TFP was originally your idea? Is that how it went down? Or
Yeah, so, I really wish we started before COVID because, a lot of social media was growing really heavily during COVID. And, Pablo was at New York City at the time, and I had a friend who did personal training a little bit, and he was like, your credentials with you and your brother are just so, they're so high, that you should start something like it. You guys have a lot of experience. You have a lot of knowledge in the game. And I remember I was at my apartment in college back in Georgia, and I called Pablo. I'm like, dude, we should do this. And he was like, yeah, we should. And I'm like, perfect, let's get started. We have the credentials for it. We know what we're doing, and we know what we want to give these kids. And just to the whole Atlanta community, right? We know what they need. And a lot of those players, like what Pablo was mentioning earlier, is they don't really understand what it takes to become a college player, a pro player. It's so much more than just hard work. It's you have to deal with a lot of things outside of that. And I think we can touch the kids with that kind of background that we've been through and give them something that can provide value for them and that they can understand the stuff outside of soccer, what it really, really takes to become a professional or a college player.
I do wonder. So let me back up. What was that? What were those first conversations like?
Yeah, I guess I vividly remember I just called him. I walked inside my apartment. And I was like, hey, have you ever thought about personally training kids? And he was like, yeah, I maybe did a couple of times just to get some side money and stuff. Just whatever. And then I was like, man, we should really start a business out of this. We start the Instagram. I think that's the next day. I went and I started the Instagram. I was like, we're gonna call it TF Performance.
Yeah.
Call it Torres Futbol 7. We put 7 because we have 7 siblings in our family, and we're we'll just make it kind of a family business kind of thing. And we just thought we had so much value for it that it would be stupid for us not to do it.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was in Texas and I was playing in McAllen. You had called me, and I remember the main thing that you told me is you're like, hey, listen, I want to do this and I'm going to do it, but I'd rather do it with you, with me on board. And he was like, because obviously, you have your experience, I have my experience, but
you weren't really you weren't iffy, but I think you were going through a lot. You just had a lot of family stuff.
I was in my playing career, so I was just in that mode, and so I never thought about things outside of playing. When you're in that mindset of you're in season, you're playing, you're focused on your training, you're focused on your games, and all that kind of stuff. And so when it came to my attention, I didn't think of it as much, but I do remember you telling me hey, listen, I'm going to do this, but I want to have you on board with it. And I liked the idea, and I was like, this is my brother. I think we could do something special. I think we could do something cool. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we just full steam ahead, started doing it. Took action. Got the name, got the Instagram. We came out with that, and that year we did kind of a hype video that a good personal friend of mine came up with the idea, and he was like, hey, when you announce this, make some hype video in your stadium. Like of you, like just like in the middle of your stadium juggling the ball with like, fan noise in the background, like some commentary. It was actually a really good idea. And so I had a teammate that helped me shoot it. He was like really good with videography. Like he had a drone, he had like a nice camera, so he helped me do it. We did the editing, and then we released it, and that was like kind of like our announcement.
Yeah, and we released that, I want to say September 15th of 2022 is when we first released it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it, Eric, is that probably at least for the first couple months, you probably didn't do much. I was doing all the marketing, all the. No, I'm serious, because I knew he was going through like I played in college. Obviously, I'm full loaded, but like as a professional
so you
player,
got extra time.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll start everything. And
he even told me too. He was like, "Listen, I'm gonna do stuff behind the scenes." Yeah.
And so I just started, man. I just started marketing ourselves. I started, making videos, learning videos for kids to watch. Me playing in the actual college game, certain turns, techniques, and stuff like that. And so for the first couple months, I was fully on board, and I knew Pablo was going to be a big, even bigger than what I was, like a bigger piece to the puzzle for our business. But I knew that like I had the time for it, and I was going to start it. And, I guess almost 2 years now. We're in September soon. Like, it's almost 2 years now. And it's crazy to see where we've come since then.
Look, I went on your Instagram, and I saw that you had 21,000 followers, and I literally was like, there's no way these are real. There's no way these are real. Because I've known about you guys in this endeavor you guys have started, and I kept thinking, there's no way they've amassed this kind of popularity this quickly. It's 2 years. It's not even 2 years, and 21,000. I was like, holy crap! How do you do that?
I almost want to say the first
I called you out before we started this. I was like, those are fake, right? Like those are not real.
I want to say the first year for sure we had like 14,000, 15,000. Like it was really quick. And
it was. I remember like getting off of training and then just like fall. Like it was just crazy. Like
Eric,
our page was just insane.
Like I told you before this, I woke up in the morning and it was like 1,000 followers.
But how, like what was it that was kind of turning, or it was creating all that enthusiasm for was it just the content you were putting out there?
Yeah, it was the content. Like I said, not everything I posted worked, but like you have the right audio, you have the right. Like
the audio was big.
The audio
I remember
was big.
Michael told me he was like the audio.
But honestly,
big.
the meaning, the message behind the video, it was like what I was trying to get out of it, right? Like if it was like, hey, work on these turns at home and then apply them to your game, and I would clip of me doing a turn or something, right? Like any simple turn, and then I would show it me using it in game, so that the people know that it really does work. Like we've worked on them, and you apply them in game, and the more you train on them, the more confident you get with it, and it's just like so I guess we just got a lot of traction from it very early on. And I remember Paul did the same thing. He called me one morning. He was like, dude, like 800 new followers.
I asked him, I said, are you buying followers?
I literally scrolled down through the follower list, and I was like, are these all real? And I'm clicking on someone. We're like, no, this is a real person.
Yeah.
Clicked on another one. That's a real person. I was like, all right, I guess these are real.
I
was shocked at how quickly you had gotten up to 21,000. I was like,
I've always given credit where it's due with Jamichael, and I've told him like, hey, like you've done this really good, like getting like as far as marketing and how much he worked to kind of build that following, build that reputation. Mm-hmm. So I've always told him like he did a really good job doing something like that.
I do like the way it looks. I do like the way the aesthetic of the whole page. I remember seeing early on. I'll be honest, I have not looked at it in a little bit, but I did notice the stuff that you're talking about, the fact that you were showing the training, and you were showing them the in-game stuff and how it worked.
Yeah,
and I thought, that's so. Everyone loves to show the training drills, but they don't show how it applies to in-game stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't see that part of it very often. You see it sometimes, but not enough and not consistently enough to where it's cool. It's this is clearly something I can work on at home or whatever. Yeah. And it shows the benefit of joining a program like what you have to better your game, to better your development in the game that hopefully you want to take to the next level, whatever that level is. And I think that's. I'm not gonna say it's sorely missing, but it's certainly to see it kind of on a platform like say Instagram or whatever. I think it's just nice to see, and I just like to see that continue to grow. I like to see you guys continue to grow. I mean, what's the long term goal here?
I mean, I think the long term goal is that we want to be able to keep providing this avenue and this platform for kids to come to us and to get better. I mean, we've talked about long term about where we want to take it, and then maybe it might be where we start our own like official club in the
Yeah.
future where like we have literally like a NASA or a UFA
Yeah.
or a GSA or something like that. That's definitely in the
Mm-hmm.
long term of where we see things right now. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of work to be done before we get there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think right now we're not looking too long term. We're kind of taking it one
right,
step at a
right.
time and trying to we're trying to make a name for ourselves. In the beginning, and Jamal can attest to it too. Is like we were just no one knew us. Like people we could talk about our background and where we played, but ultimately like us as like a training academy, no one knew us.
Yeah.
And so it was just getting ourselves out there and working. We knew that we were really good at what we did and working with the kids and getting the families to trust us because what we do, we feel like we do it really well. And I feel like I genuinely can really help, soccer players here get better and like in the drills that we do, game specific drills and all that kind of stuff, and like so that they can see improvements. That's one of the things that we would try to work on. Is like, and one thing we tell parents like, listen, the stuff that we do, we want to make sure that it gets results for you guys because ultimately that's the why you're coming to us. You want to get better, you want to see the results, so we want to make sure that what we're doing for you is paying off.
Yeah.
And so it was just us getting out there and getting the trust from parents, from kids to work with us. And then, we knew that once we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, our name would get out there and we would, continue growing and then, getting a community like we have now. I'm not saying that we have the biggest community right now, but, we have a good community here in Atlanta and the connections that we have. And so it's just continue growing that. And then wherever it takes it, we kind of see in the future. But yeah, definitely taking it, like kind of one step at a time,
Definitely.
I would say.
Curious how big you guys are now. What's the
Meaning like
with the amount of kids that we work
how many
with?
kids do you have? How
I want to say we've definitely trained over 100 kids, and we have a lot of players that stick true to us, and they trust in our training, so they'll always come back to. We always offer different programs. Like in the summer it was very good. We just did our first summer program. I think it was like a 2-month program.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of kids from a variety of different clubs, and it was the first time where we were able to build like an environment where players could come and train together. And that's something that me and Pablo talk about a lot, is that when we were younger, it was either him by himself, training by himself, going to a local park, or it was me and him going together, right? But we never had that like experience where like someone would put a group together, like a high level group, whether like you're low level or high level, right? There was never that like atmosphere where we could be like, we hit someone up and be like, hey, can we train in this group? And that's something I think it's very important that what we're doing now is because now we're able to create that environment for the youth to come train with us, and they can challenge themselves, they can push themselves. Because sometimes in the group there's better kids and there's kids that still need a lot more work, right? And for those kids that are still at that low level, they can look up to those players that are very good, right? And that's the atmosphere you need to be in, right? We always say if you want to reach the high level, you have to compete with the best of the best to be the best. You can't compete, with a low standard. You have to keep yourself accountable. You have to have a high standard and be surrounded by like-minded players that want to go pro or whatever it is, right? So that's kind of why I love what we do, right? We're able to create that environment for players, and they just flourish in it.
So the next thing to do is you create the app, the TFP app, and then you create the the course that you sell.
Yeah,
like that's
like online training. We've been thinking about online because there's a lot of people on Instagram that like I can't tell you how many people have DM'd us like, hey, like we want to go pro. How do we do it?
Yeah.
And then honest to God, like so many people like just genuinely don't know like the process. It's very difficult. If you have a parent that's never played soccer, you don't know what to do or where to send your kid to go get better or train, and the investment financially you have to do. Like it's there's so much into it. It's unbelievable.
What does it take to at least just go to college and play soccer at college?
It takes everyday training every day. Like we trained every day. Like I remember Pablo he was insane at it. He would after school, right? He would probably, well, at least when you're homeschooled, like he would train in the morning by himself.
I forgot that you were homeschooled, right?
For that sole reason, so I could
train.
I could train in the mornings. Yeah.
But like back to your question, like you have to be touching the ball every single day. Like it's like you have to get a feel for the ball, and like that's what we always stress about. It's not how fast you are, how strong you are, or how quick you are, right? It's genuinely your knowledge with the ball and your knowledge of the game and your positional aspects of it. It's crazy.
It's even too is that when a kid is with their group environment, with their club team, if they're getting together, let's say twice a week or 3 times a week, like it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And even the point I kind of realized it was I was obviously in my club environment. I was doing well, and I was training. I was training, I was training relatively pretty hard. And I got invited to my first national team camp, and there was 50 kids there, and so 50 of the best kids in the nation getting called into this first U.S. national team camp, and I just remember this so clearly that week I really saw oh my God, a lot of these players are just as good as me, if not even better.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were better. And so that's when I realized, okay, I need to come back home, and I got to make sure that what I'm doing now just is not enough, and I have to work so much more.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that's that's one thing that a lot of kids need to do is just work more. It's just work more, because what they're doing now in their club environment just is not enough to get to whatever level it might be, whether it's just the college level or the pro level, whatever level it might be.
I feel like it's so crazy to me. Do me a favor real quick before we keep going. Plug the power in without moving the camera too much. Technical difficulties, people.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
It's crazy to think that in every other sport in the United States. Well, actually, that's not true because that is true. In every other sport in the United States, seemingly, if you play at the club level or the equivalent of the club level, and the only exception would be, I think, football. You have a good shot at making. Well, not good shot, but that's the path to going to college / pro. You don't need to. You don't need to. Well, I don't know if you don't need to. I could be wrong in saying this, but I keep thinking with soccer specifically, it seems as though you need to play as much, if not more, than you can possibly play to make it to whatever level you want to.
Yeah.
It's not a thing like football where you can just kind of you play your 10, 12 games over the course of a fall, and then over the course of 4 years you end up going. You have to continually play all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to train all year round. You have to essentially do whatever it takes to make it to make it to a level where it's the work is paying off, and even then it might not pay off.
Yeah, I mean, because you think too is that there's just so many kids out there that are just as good as you, like I kind of just talked about, and they're working just as hard as you. They're just as good as you, and ultimately there's only so many spots on the D1 roster. There's only so many spots on the professional roster, let alone that. So there's just so much competition, and you can look into the percentages and I don't know what it was. It was 0.01% chance of you going pro, because that's just the harsh reality of what it is.
Yeah.
And that's something too we try to be kind of realistic too with the kids that we work with. So listen, every kid wants to go pro, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is that every kid can't go pro. That's just the reality. And you have to be you have to be talented. Of course, the talent's there, but the talent's not going to ultimately get you there. You got to be willing to work hard. You got to be willing to do the things that a lot of kids are not willing to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is really difficult, and you have to constantly be perfecting that craft. You can never get complacent, especially in the youth soccer can change so quickly. You can have a kid that can be flourishing, and then 2 years later, it's just he's just not the same player anymore. And you could have a kid that, at a certain time is not playing at a high level, and then he puts his head down, or something might happen, he hit a growth spurt, whatever it might be, and then next thing you know, boom, they're playing at a super high level. I've seen it all the time, even in my youth career of players at a certain point just not being that good, and the next thing you know, boom, 2-3 years later, they're playing pro and they're playing at a super high level. I see it all the time. I'd even had a teammate, Cal Jennings, that I played with at Georgia United. So I played up with him, and he was a starter on our team, here and there, good player, and then he ended up going to a kind of a D1 school. I think he went to UCF, and then now I just never saw it, and now he signed an MLS deal. He's in the USL playing now, and he has I think last season he scored 18 goals in the USL. You just see stuff like that happen out of nowhere. It's out of nowhere. You wouldn't expect it, but for whatever he did, he put his head down, he worked, he waited for his opportunity, he got it, and then he took it and he ran with it. So I mean, it's like I said, everyone's different. Everyone's journeys and paths are different. But yeah, you just have to like I said, continue to work and keep perfecting that craft.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if when you train specific or individual players, when you go into those trainings, do you look at each player individually, and in terms of how to develop that specific player, or is there a kind of a group approach, or how do you? What's the mindset going into that?
Yeah, I would say 100%. Like when we go into, let's say, for example, an individual session, one kid is completely different than another, right? And from one session for sure, and probably going to say the same, is you know 100% what they need to work on. And what we do in our sessions is we kind of format it to where it's like we're going to work on this, and then you keep for the next week you're going to what's it called? Like you're gonna develop it to the next step, right? Like now you need to work on this, and a lot of it is like you tell the player like if your technique's bad, like go find a wall at home, go to a park, and just kick it 1,000 times your right foot, left foot. And a lot of the players we train, it's a lot of that. It's technical ability, and that's the most important thing. Like we grew up at the club level, and the biggest thing coaches tell us is you have to sharpen up the technique because the more technical a player is, the scouts love it. Like you understand the game, you're technical, and you can play crisp passes, 1-2 touch, never lose the ball. Like a lot of coaches like that, and that's the most important thing. So kind of how we structure those sessions is mainly technical stuff, right? You have to understand the game differently than other players, and that's what gives you the extra edge as well. So
what's the thing that stands out when you with the group of players you have now?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it. What's the thing that stands out is the thing that's missing, I guess, the most at their age group, if that makes sense. So you wouldn't expect like a 12-year-old to be like the most technical player in the world.
Yeah.
But
I would say someone that can juggle really well. Yeah. Juggling is a thing that a lot of kids just do not like doing because it's boring. And maybe I was sick in the head, but I loved juggling as a kid.
Well, let me ask you this: what's the pro of being able to juggle? Because I played soccer all my life, and I'm not like horrible at it, but I'm not. It's not something I'm like, I gotta get so much better at it.
Juggling,
but why is it important to know how to juggle?
Juggling is just the easiest way for you to get a closer relationship with the ball.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you have to be a freestyler and you have to put the ball on your neck and hold it here and flick it back up and then do an around the world crazy. That's what I'm trying to say. But juggling is just the easiest way for you to learn how the ball moves to your foot. So controlling it, how high you want to kick it, how low you want to kick it, how you want to control it off your foot, controlling with the inside, hitting off the laces, maybe hitting with the outside of the foot, being able to control the ball with your thigh so that if the ball's out of the air, you can bring it down with your thigh. Heading it, controlling it, heading it, whatever it might be. It's just the easiest way for you to get that relationship with the ball. It ultimately it's like the ball. I always tell people it's like the ball. You have to picture it like you're going to be your girlfriend or boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to spend time with it. You got to learn like how it moves to your foot and get that relationship with it. It's like for a girl, if you have a girlfriend, if you don't spend time with her, you guys aren't going to have a good relationship because you never spend time with her. You don't know what she likes. You don't know what she doesn't like. Whatever it might be. Same thing with the ball. You got to establish that relationship. So I feel like juggling is just the easiest way to get a strong relationship with the ball. Of course, you have different ways. You can work on dribbling. Wall passes. Wall passes are also really good. Yeah. But juggling is just like the easiest way where you don't need anything, but you can do it anywhere. You can do it inside your house. You can do it outside. Maybe you do it inside your house and you break a flower vase or something like that. But you gotta be careful. But it's just, for me, that's just the easiest way. And a lot of kids just don't like doing it. Like, a lot of kids just find it boring. If you have them like, hey, show me your juggling. How is it? Like, I don't really like it. Yeah. What's your record? Oh, I don't know, maybe like 10. 10 yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But like, are you trying to beat that 10? Are you trying to get 11? No, I just kind of got 10. And I feel like that can change a little bit. It'd be like, you should practice juggling. You should want to keep trying to beat your score. Juggling is not everything in soccer. That's not what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Just because you can juggle really well doesn't mean you're going to be an amazing player. And you can pass, you can receive, you can shoot very well. No, of course you have to work on those other things. But for me, juggling is just the easiest way to establish that relationship with the ball. For me, that's like one of the first things you can like really get down, and then you can start venturing off into other things, and you'll become a better player for it. Yeah, for me, I love juggling. I did it like crazy when I was a kid. Yeah. I would try to get 1,000, I'd break 1,000. Get 2,000, I'd break 2,000.
Kids are really like, I don't like juggling.
It's just not fun. It's just not fun.
A lot of kids actually.
A lot of kids
really?
They just don't think it's fun.
Why does that translate to like, or how does that translate to like an in-game? Maybe not juggling specifically, but why is it good to juggle? How does that translate to the game?
I mean, like what Pablo said, you get that relationship with the ball, and it's crazy because you can juggle you can juggle with your toe, you can juggle with your inside, your outside, your thigh. Like you just get a good feel for the ball. So even like in a game, right? If the ball is thrown in the air by a keeper, let's say, and it's coming to you, like you can work on that. It's like what they call like your weight of touch or weight of pass. Like I don't know how to explain it with your feet, obviously, but like your weight of touch, you learn from juggling. Like, I have to control it like this to bring it down to my left side or right side, especially if you're under pressure, right? If someone's on my right side, ball's up, I scan, maybe I have to take it this way. So if you practice that 100,000 times, just juggling, it's going to become second nature to you. And that's why it's so important. And Pablo did the same thing when he was probably like, 12, 13, just getting into that national team setting. And you broke a couple windows. I remember you broke one before. You remember that?
Yeah, I did break one.
I promise you, me and Pablo, or at least
passes,
Pablo a lot. Pablo a lot more than me. He would go outside, and we had nothing, right? It was just a concrete little basketball on cement, and we had like a wall, like a small little wall, and Pablo would like just pass it thousands of times.
Are you talking about like that brick wall
Yes,
underneath
yes,
the
you know
window?
what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And he broke that window probably once or twice. And my parents made him pay for it. He was like 14.
Yeah.
I think he paid for it.
Yeah.
But like Pablo would also do this, which I love. And I want to touch more about it, especially in our Instagram videos and stuff, is he would pass like, say, 10 times right foot. He would scan his shoulder, find a tree, he would turn and just ping it to that tree. And, he just did that hundreds of times. And like I said, like you can do stuff like that at home that can quickly increase your game. And it's insane to me how easy it is to do, right? You just got to find a wall and then a tree and then just kick it, and it comes second nature.
Yeah, the thing too is like we came from an environment where like I didn't have a trainer, I didn't have someone that was going to go out there and be like, oh, this is what you need to do. Like we didn't have that. You just had to do it yourself. And I think the kids that we work with now they're really blessed, right? Because they have parents that are willing to invest that into them. Not that their parents weren't willing to do it, but they just feasibly they couldn't do it, right? And these kids that we work with, their parents are willing to do it. They want them to work with us. So,
Pablo, touch on that real quick. I love what you said. Is that I feel like when growing up, I never had like a mentor, right? Like someone I could touch base with and like, hey, I need to work on this, or what do you think I could work on? Like, I feel like we never really had that. Maybe we talked to each other, my dad, but I feel like these kids, in a way, they look up to us, and I can't describe the feeling. Like us touching their hearts and like them looking up to us every day and being like, hey, like we have kids that text us from their parents and like, hey, this happened in this game. And it's just like to have that mentor, I feel like it's huge because
not only that, but to have someone that you can like bounce stuff off of. From a soccer perspective, from someone who's been there. That's got to be huge.
Crazy.
That's got to be huge. To be able to, tactically look at maybe not tactically, but situationally look at something and be like, what's the best way to react? Or better yet, how do I work on this specific thing?
Right.
Given to someone that's played at a higher level, how do I attack this specific weakness in my game or whatever the question is? I mean, I never had that. I just had mean coaches.
I just had the mean coaches. And we get kids all the time that have those mean coaches and like their confidence is low. They're not feeling good about the game. And that's normal. Everyone goes through that. And it's tough. It's tough. Really, really tough. And it's definitely good that they can come into a stress-free environment where we're still trying to push you, we're still trying to make you better. But you can be free and you can get better. You can be you don't have to be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
And those are ultimately all the things that a player needs, especially the youth, is because you don't want to kill someone's confidence and kill someone's momentum. And Jamichael can me and him talked privately about him having youth coaches that just killed that confidence in you, killed that fun in you, and that love, and ultimately it sucks to hear things like that because when you're a child, you're playing the game because it's a game, right? When you sign your pro contract, when you sign a college soccer, decide to play D1 soccer, then you start seeing the business side of things. Okay, how this works. When you're a kid, it's just a game. That's all it is, and it should be like that, But ultimately, we can get kids that can see the harsh realities of it, of having strict coaches or falling out of love with the game, and those are things of course that are tough and you don't want to see.
Happens a lot.
Happens a lot. Yeah,
a lot more than you think. A lot of kids.
Yeah.
A lot of kids falling out of love with the game because of maybe a coach or their confidence. Like it's crazy, and it's happened. I'm sure to you a lot, Pablo. It's happened to me where some weeks you're like. You're the highest of highs. You feel like you love the game again. You're confident. You go into games and you show it. And then next week, I don't know whether a coach says something to you, and then you're just a completely different player. You almost feel like you're shelled in to your own body because you're just not confident. And that's why confidence is the biggest thing. In my opinion, it's one of the biggest things in soccer. If you're not confident, it's very hard to become successful in it for sure.
Well, that was never my problem. Overconfidence.
When did you think that? When did that point hit in your youth career where you're like, okay, this isn't just a game anymore. Like this isn't just like This isn't
Honestly,
just dad taking us to
yeah.
the field to go play a game, like, or practicing. Like, when did that kind of like hit you?
Well, I'll
Like,
say
oh,
like
shoot.
this. I want to say U14, my first year at Georgia United, because I had expectations, right? And, you know, I laugh about it now, but like Juan Pablo was a big time player, right? And so I knew if I had to step into his shoes that I had a lot of work to do. And so that was always in the back of my head in a way. Like I want to live, I want to.
Was there pressure though, like that?
It
or
wasn't
was
pressure,
It just,
but, you know, I won't say any names, but I had coaches involved that were very, very hard on me because of it. And I still play my game, and I thought I played very well, and I know I played well. But you know, you have certain coaches and things along the way that can kill your confidence, right? And I would say back to Pablo's question is like probably 14 years old, 13. I was probably in 8th grade when I started feeling like I need to step up because now scouts are coming, right? Like in the development academy, you play in a game, there's like 3 national team scouts with clipboards, and you're like a 12, 13-year-old kid. And
that's crazy.
And it's just like, geez.
Only
like,
in soccer, man. Well,
Yeah.
actually, that's not true. I think in basketball that's happening now.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's a great experience, and it teaches us so much. Like, you know, at that 12, 13 years old, to have that much pressure on you, like, now when at 23 years old, like, it doesn't faze me anymore, you know? Like, and I didn't learn about, like, the true confidence in myself till probably college. Like, I don't feel like I finally started understanding my confidence and just growing into it in college, because I knew if I wasn't going to go pro, that this could be my last couple years playing soccer. And so in my mindset, it was just like, you know, screw it if you make a mistake. Screw it if a coach says something. Just go and play your game. And ever since I had that mentality, my game got so much better. It was unbelievable. And if I would have had that when I was 13, 14, I think I would have been a completely different player. But I was too young to really understand that, you know?
What did you notice between just in yourself, the difference between you being super as confident as you wanted to be, and when you weren't as confident? What was the major difference?
Yeah, I mean, so in a game, right? And Paul could probably vouch for this. If you're in a pouring game, and let's say you're playing the 6, which center defense is made right in front of your center backs, like if they're pressing you and you have 5 guys pressing you, and you're like, I don't want to touch the ball. Like if I make a mistake, they're scoring on us. You know, especially if you're playing high level. One mistake, that's a goal, right? And so like things like that, you know, just different aspects in the game. And then obviously when I went to college, like I said, I had that mindset. I was just like, I'm going to check into the space. Like I used to be so scared to the point where I didn't want to check into spaces. I knew I was going to get the ball, but I didn't want to get the ball. Because I was like, if I go in there, if I go in that space, good luck. I'm losing that instantly.
You were avoiding the opportunity to mess up.
In my head, I knew I had to be there. Like I knew, because I would say I'm a very smart player. Same with Pablo. Like we watched so much soccer when we were younger. Like we knew exactly where we had to be. We had coaches that told us where to go, and like I would know I had to be there. And sometimes I'd be like, no, I'm not going to touch that space, because I know if I get the ball, I have Philadelphia Union MLS next player is going to come and crunch me, and then my coach, I'm going to hear from my coach. But like I said, back to your question, when I was in college, I was like, if I lose the ball, so what? Like honestly, so what? Like I'm going to trust myself. I've done it thousands of times, reps. And that's why I always tell the kids, I'm like, just be confident. And like if you make a mistake, okay, you're going to hear something, but just throw it out the window and then go on to the next play. And then when I had that mentality, my career, like I wouldn't say my career, but my college career definitely changed. Like I was just so much more confident. I fell in love with the game even more. And that's one thing maybe we can touch on later, but like a lot of players fall out of love with the game. And I was at that point one time in college, and I didn't want to play anymore. You know, I was like, what am I doing this for? Like what Pablo said, it wasn't like I was a kid anymore having fun. It was more like a job rather than like a hobby, you know? And ever since I changed the mentality where I was like, screw it, I'm going to play my game. I don't care what anyone says. It was the crazy transition that the player I became after that. So,
do you feel like you had that same sort of not confidence, whatever, but like did you notice that the difference in when you were a confident player and when you're not a confident, when you were less of a confident player?
Yeah, of course.
Like, did you have those moments?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I experienced it like in my pro career. Like, you know, you have confident moments. You know, you feel confident when you know you have the confidence of the coach, where the coach trusts you, he believes in you, and he wants you. You have your moments where like you're just like really low when a coach like just doesn't care about you or like doesn't trust you, doesn't play you, whatever it might be. So yeah, I mean, I definitely had those moments. You know, I had, you know, for me it started early. Like I think from the national team, from the youth national team, like from the U14 age, that's when I first like noticed it. Where like, you know, you were just like so nervous to make mistakes, like playing at that level with kids that are so good, and you just, for me, like it wasn't until like maybe like my 3rd or 4th camp that I was trying to like kind of make a name for myself with the national team. The first 2 or 3, I was just trying to survive. Like I was literally just trying to like stay in the mix. Like that's it. I even told myself after the first one, I was so like on that border of like probably being cut. The coach was really honest with us, like from the first day. Like, he was like, "Listen, there's 50 of you guys."
This is the national team, right?
Yeah. This is the national team. This is the national team coach. He's like, "Listen, Hugo Perez, fantastic coach, probably one of the best I've ever had." And he was like, "Listen, there's 50 of you guys, and like 25 of you guys are not going to come back, maybe more. And we're going to bring in another 25 guys. So you have to like show us like that you deserve to come back." And I remember after the that first camp, I told myself like I would be like praying to God, and I'd be like, "God, I don't know if I'm going to come back. I probably won't come back. I don't think I'm going to come back. But if I do come back, I'm going to come back stronger. Like, if you give me the opportunity to come back, I'm going to come back stronger." And I was like right on that edge. I'm sure the coaches had a conversation about, should we call him back or should we not call him back? And for whatever reason, they were like, "Oh, let's call him back.
Give him a second chance.
Give him a second chance." And so I got called back, and I told myself, okay, if I get called back, I got to be sharper. Like, I can't have another camp like this, because then I'm for sure getting the cut. So, I've had those moments where I'm like, man, I just, don't feel confident. You don't want to make mistakes. We would do like passing patterns out of the back. So like a passing pattern is where like, you're playing out of the back where the ball starts with the goalkeeper, it goes to a center back, and then it goes to you, and then you have to spray it to an outside back. But like, it's the intensity and the level is like, pass has got to be on the ground to the right foot. Don't overhit it so it's going out of bounds. And like, keep in mind, like, everyone's watching it. So like if you hit a bad pass, everyone sees it. The coaches are seeing it. Like all the players on the side are seeing it. Like, you just don't want to get exposed in those moments. Yeah. I think, but ultimately, like, it made me kind of stronger to like kind of have the confidence to be like, okay, I can do this, and believe in your technical abilities. And you kind of just have to like go through it, to get it stronger. At the end of the day, if you're going to play at a high level, whether it's D1 college soccer, whether it's pro soccer, you have to be comfortable playing under pressure. Like, not pressure like in a game. I'm talking about pressure of just from everything. Yeah. Pressure from the coach, pressure from the atmosphere. Like, if you cannot thrive, not even just make it, but thrive under that pressure, then you're not going to make it.
It's impossible.
Like, it's impossible. Like, you just won't make it, because if you're in an opportunity, or you have a scout watching, or you have a coach watching, or something like that, and like ultimately if you don't perform, then you're not. Whatever it might be, you're not going to get signed to that pro team, or you're not going to get, you're not going to get that scholarship to that program.
I would also guess that also, like, having that mentality, or that sort of practice ethic, training ethic, it also kind of drills out the what am I trying to I guess the pressure of whatever team you potentially face in the future, and whatever situation, more specifically, whatever the situation is that you go into the future. So you enter a tournament, and you go down a goal or something like that.
Yeah.
Training like that, and at that high intensity, with that pressure, with the don't make a mistake, or that sort of mentality, kind of in a way I would assume drills that out of you a little bit, so that when you enter those situations, it's not that daunting. Yeah. Or it's less daunting. It still might be daunting, but it's not as daunting when it comes to trying to overcome those situations, whatever they might be.
No, 100%. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think about too. Like, looking back in my experience when I was younger, and I wish I could go back, because now that obviously I'm older, and me and Pablo, or more so Pablo, but we've experienced it. I wish I could go back and be like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's like, just go out and enjoy it. Like, and like Pablo vouched for me too. Like, I miss it every single day, man. Playing at the high level, there's nothing like it. The adrenaline rush, the experience, like outside of soccer too. It's just like you're with you're with ballers, like from like Pablo obviously playing with the national team, or even in Georgia, like playing at Georgia United, which was probably the best team in Georgia at the time. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, the experiences you get to feel and share with other friends. It's crazy.
Can I ask you guys I'm just gonna ask you. Who's the most famous person you played with?
Other than my brother, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say, at the time, I guess I would say Andrew Carlton.
Okay. And who's the most famous person?
I want to say.
I know you guys know people within the circles, but who's the most famous person you played with?
The most famous person that I played with? I gotta think back.
You gotta laugh. Pablo's got way more than me, but
well, I know he's gonna have. That's why I asked you first.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I asked you first.
The players that I played with.
So do you mean like in a pro atmosphere as well, or like just at the time?
No, just like in a game. Like, who's the most famous? Well, or what? Even
I would say probably the most famous person that I played against would probably be either Wayne Rooney or Nani.
You played against
that's
Wayne
crazy.
Rooney?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with DC in the Open Cup.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
played
played right back? Or?
I subbed in. So
Okay,
I played
I know
against
what
him.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Nani, I really, really played against him because I played right
You
back.
defended him, right?
I defended Nani.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I remember, so this was, I'm in my first year.
So here's the reason I ask, because the kids are going to want to know these questions.
Yeah.
These are the questions the kids are going to have.
yeah.
Okay.
My first year in New York City, I the season started. I'm not really getting a lot of playing time, and then the Open Cup comes, and so the Open Cup, is a traditional tournament in the United States. It's where the teams will experiment with the roster.
It's the FA Cup.
It's
here.
the FA Cup here.
Yeah.
People will get rotation. People will get minutes. So I'm a young kid coming up. This is a chance for me to get minutes. So we played the first round of the Open Cup, and I started right back because we didn't have a true backup right back, and our starting right back needed a rest. So the coach was like, "Hey, I'm going to put you at right back." Never played it before. So I was like, "Okay, whatever, I'm going to play it." So I play the first game Open Cup, we do well. The next round we play against Orlando City, I think in the quarterfinals of the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing right back. Orlando City that time, they have Nani. He's obviously left winger. So I'm like, okay, I'm going up against Nani. And I just remember he was just levels. Like he was incredible. Yeah. I just even remember just little things you keep in mind, you're a 19-year-old kid, so you're just trying to make a name for yourself, and you got Nani right here in front of you. And I remember watching the ball to my left, and then he's to my right, and obviously I'm trying to watch the ball, but I'm trying to keep my eye on where he is, Yeah. So I kind of am putting my arm out there to feel him, to okay, he's right here, but I'm still trying to pay attention to the ball. And I remember I put my arm on him to feel him so I can see, and he just smacked my arm away. Smack, almost don't even touch me. And I remember being shit, and then
I'm not gonna touch you next time.
Don't even.
You're not worthy, man. Get out of here.
Me. And then I remember, he obviously has that trademark chop, and I just remember, he receives the ball right around the left side of the box, and he pushes it onto his right foot. And I'm looking at his body positioning, and I swear he's about to just hit the meanest shot with his right foot. So I'm oh man, he's about to shoot this. So I turn my body, just textbook defending what not to do. Yeah. Turn my body, stick my leg out, and he just chops me.
Next thing you know, he's on the other side.
Next thing you know, he's on the other side.
It happens in half
I'm
a
doing
second.
a 360. Nani's by me. Thankfully, nothing happened in the play. I think my center back covered me, and so he was there, and he might have passed the ball back.
Yeah.
But I just remember after that chop, I was man, this guy's another level. This guy's good. This guy's really, really good. So yeah, he's probably the biggest name that I've played against. And then playing with, I've had big name teammates.
Name a couple of them. Name a couple of people.
Now Maxi Morales, Argentinian player that's played in Europe.
Serginho Dest.
Oh, Serginho Dest. Played with him with the U.S. I forgot, but with the U.S. national team. Josh Sargent played with these guys. Yeah. Chris Richards. Tati Castellanos playing Lazio now. He was the Golden Boot winner in MLS. When I signed in New York, he hadn't really made his name for himself yet. And then now he's at that crazy point now, where he's big time. But yeah, I played with a lot of big name players. Maybe I don't know who would be the biggest one. Maybe probably Tati or maybe Serginho. Serginho is pretty big. Julian Araujo too.
You never played with Pulisic, right?
No, I never played with Pulisic.
You were kind of around him.
I've been around him, cool with him, friends with him. Never got to play with him though. Yeah. That would have been pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anybody.
Eric, which one's yours?
I guess my version would be who is the most famous person I've interviewed.
Yeah. That's
or been around. So it's not just soccer that does this. But most sports do a version of this, but it's usually scrum interviews, which that just means a bunch of reporters are talking to one player. I don't know. Anyone that's been in Atlanta United, I've basically talked to.
You talked to, what's his name? Martinez ever? Striker. Or Almiron ever?
Yeah, both of them.
Really? Damn, that's crazy.
I basically said
Almiron's pretty big.
I would say
Almiron's probably,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah,
he's
I went to I covered a Chelsea. It was what was the tournament they used to come out? They did during the summer. What was that called?
I don't know what the tournament's called.
The Champions Cup or something like that?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. I think it was Chelsea and it was an Italian team.
Juventus, AC Milan.
Maybe Juventus.
I feel like that seems reasonable. Juventus.
It was an Italian. Was it an Italian team or was it a French team?
I don't know.
Anyways, the only reason it might have been, what are the big French teams?
like PSG.
PSG.
Lyon.
PSG.
What was it?
PSG.
PSG.
That's
really?
what it was. Because there were French reporters.
Okay. Nice.
And anyways, it was Mourinho. We did a full on press conference with Mourinho.
So you were able to talk to him.
I didn't talk to him.
Well,
I don't think I asked him a question. I was in the same room as him. That's
crazy.
my version of what
okay.
him going up against
Yeah.
Nani and.
I'd be afraid to ask Mourinho a
Pablo,
question.
you've met a couple. You met Pep Guardiola one time. There's a photo of you shaking his hand in the locker room.
shook Pep Guardiola's hands.
Dude, Guardiola to us, me and Pablo is like my second dad. Like,
Yeah.
I looked up to this guy. Like when he was at Barca, when he left, like I was crying for days. Like he was soccer, like the philosopher of soccer. Like for me, like growing up, like that's why
we loved watching that.
I love watching Barcelona, and that's why I think honestly honest to God, we got so good is because like we just loved the way they played, and like even now we try to replicate it. Nice, simple soccer.
I mean, that's the childhood grow up dream. That's how you do it. You just replicate what your idols do.
I remember at the time Messi was always doing the chips, like he was chipping the goalkeeper every single game, like the scoops, like and so I would go into practice at GSA and I'd be working on the scoops. Goalkeepers getting mad. Coach is like, "Why are you scooping the ball so much?" I'm like, "Man, I'm seeing Messi do this." Yeah, no, they were incredible. That side, me and Pep Guardiola was definitely that was a surreal moment because I was like, man, we watched that era of like Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, Pedro, David Villa. Like we're just like embracing all of it. And just seeing that was crazy. Met Ronaldo too. Took a picture with him. The R9. Not Cristiano, but R9. He was. I think we were in Dubai with the national team, and then he was having dinner at the same restaurant we went to.
Yeah.
And then like someone told us like, oh, he's gonna go out back and like he'll take some pictures with you guys. So then we all like ran back, got like a photo next to R9.
Not missing this opportunity.
Yeah, I got a photo next to R9. I don't even remember it at all. But I was probably like 15, 14. So I got a photo with R9. Zidane, we played the French national team, and his son was the goalkeeper. So after the game, our whole team took a photo with him.
Pablo, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you told me this. I think you were like, whether it was home or away, you played against LA Galaxy at the time, and you said I don't think you played that game, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic was there.
Oh, Zlatan was there, yeah.
Like, just run through real quick. Like, if you see a player like Zlatan, right? Like, obviously you don't want to be a fan, but it's just like you play with him in video games, right? When you're younger, and like you look up to these type of players. Like when he's in your face, like in the same environment, whether you played or don't. Like, you're in that environment, like, how does that feel? Like, because I don't know how that feels, obviously.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you see it in person, and you're like, dude, this guy's a freaking beast. Like, he's a monster. Yeah. Zlatan is a, like, that guy is insane. Like, just his presence, like, height, like, everything about him. Like, I'm just, like.
super tall.
Super tall, like, just, like,
6'5",
just a monster. And I remember the funniest part about when we played that game against LA Galaxy, and I'd always known is that Zlatan was like
6'5". He's the example of just because you're super tall and don't play basketball, it can still translate to soccer somehow.
Right.
But I mean, just like his like presence and like just like you see him and you're like, oh my god, like this guy's like just his presence there, like this guy's insane.
Yeah.
And so even the funniest part, so I didn't come in that game, but obviously like seeing him, in the tunnels or like seeing him like watching the game from the bench right up there, really cool experience. But I remember this, that I had a good friend of mine that was playing, that he was starting on that game right back, Julian Araujo. He's playing right back for the Galaxy before he moved. And one of the things that I always heard about Zlatan was that he was so hard on his teammates because he was coming from Europe.
Yeah.
So like he came into MLS and like he was like no nonsense. Like he was pissed off his teammates did complete passes, pissed off if they lost. You got to think like he's coming from an environment where he's playing in the best of the best in the world. And you come into an MLS environment where it's just different. Like the level's a little bit lower compared to what he's used to playing for all the clubs he played for, Inter Milan, Barcelona, whatever it might be. Yeah. And I just remember after the game, I'm talking to my buddy. We're just kind of talking about the game, and like the first thing he tells me is like, man, Zlatan's gonna rip us in the locker room. And I remember that's the one thing, and I remember laughing because I was just like in my head I'm laughing because like I'm like, oh, what's up, bro? Like, good game, like I'm in my head I'm happy for him because like he's a young player, got like 90 minutes in the books, and he played well. First thing he tells me like, man, Zlatan's gonna kill us in the locker room, and I'm like, man, that's how like this guy's like,
imagine
this guy like having him as your teammate, you gotta be playing at your A game, because he's just gonna be
every day.
I'm sure, every training session and everything.
When he got to his first game in MLS was something I'll never forget. I watch clips of that every now and then. Just
I do too. Honestly,
I couldn't.
He scored like what 2 goals when he came in. two bangers
it was-
too. He scored
I
a
think it
header
was-
and like a.
What would you say that first game was Zlatan was better, or Messi's first game in that Nations or whatever that tournament was where he scored the free kick against to win it?
No, Zlatan's.
I think
You think
Zlatan's
Zlatan's better than Messi's?
Zlatan's
Yeah.
was
That was
unreal.
real.
Go watch it
Yeah.
at home again when you get back.
The first
Yeah.
one, I'm trying to think. The first one was it was the
Messi's-
chip over the. It was the chip from like.
No,
it
that was the second. That was the last one to win it or something.
the
first
chip
one was,
from midfield. From
Yeah,
like,
that was the second to win it. He took off his shirt. Remember?
okay, so the header that was like a
Yeah.
corner or like not a corner, but it was like a
Something.
like across from the wing,
Yeah.
and it was a header that was great. And
Yeah.
then okay, that's what it was. And then it was the chip was to
scored
win it. I think that's how what it was.
unbelievable.
The commentary, the fanfare,
atmosphere,
the fact that
yeah.
they were down, I think 2 goals at
Yeah,
that point,
yeah.
Yeah.
or maybe a
I've
goal. I don't
always-
know.
I've
That's
always
that's
seen
the
a-
best. That's the best like intro to MLS.
No.
I think we'll
For sure.
probably ever see for a
sure,
while.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
maybe
not.
I'm just Messi biased. That walk off.
No, for sure, for sure.
Maybe that walk off.
I am
No,
too,
but
but-
I agree. I've always seen a quote. I don't even know if it's true, but I've seen a quote about Zlatan where it was like when he first entered the league, LeBron James sent him like a.
I was
signed
just about to
jersey.
bring this up,
And then-
but I just assumed that everyone
What
knew the
is
story.
that true though? Is that true? Or is that just
All-
a myth that's
all-
going on? I feel like that has to be a myth that went around.
So I know that he took a full page out in the LA Times, I think it was, and then but would it surprise you? So for those who don't know
For
the story,
the story.
I guess LeBron sent him a
Signed jersey.
Was it a signed jersey? I think it was just a jersey.
Oh, he didn't sign it? No,
Maybe
no,
it
I
was
think it was
signed.
a signed jersey.
It was a signed jersey. LeBron sends a
Welcoming
signed jersey
him.
to welcome Zlatan to LA,
Mm-hmm.
and Zlatan being Zlatan signs it and sends it back.
No, he didn't.
Being like, oh, you're like, here you go.
I didn't
like,
know
sign
that.
it back.
That's-
You ever heard that
if
story?
he did do that, that's unbelievable.
I feel like
I heard the story, but you got to hear it.
I think
from
that's a myth. I think it's a myth.
Andrew Schultz tells it better. He's a comedian. Andrew Schultz tells it best because I basically try to replicate how he told it because he tells it so well. He's a comedian. It's a good storyteller.
It's his job, yeah.
But go listen to his version
That's
of how
crazy.
of him telling it. It's hilarious the way. But it doesn't surprise you. I'm pretty sure that's true because I heard a similar story before I even heard it from Andrew Schultz. There was no way for me to like confirm it or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure I heard something similar. I would bet it.
That's
I mean,
unbelievable if
it
you
would
did.
not surprise me at all. So I
Yeah.
would bet 100% that was exactly how it went down.
Man,
That he just sent it back.
I look back, man, and I was like, man, when I was playing in the MLS, I wish like Messi and all them were here
I
already.
know,
Busquets, Jordi Alba, man. I honestly couldn't imagine. Like, obviously, like when you're in that mindset of when you're playing against these guys, obviously you're trying to win, and you're not thinking like even when I was playing against Nani, like I knew, okay, it's Nani, like incredible player, like. But like in the moment, you're just like, okay, I'm trying to beat him, like whatever it might be. You're not like that starstruck. But I think like if I like walked out into a field and I look over my left shoulder and I see like Messi standing right there, I think there'd be a part of me that'd be like, holy
Right.
shit, that's Messi right there.
I can tell you right now, I would be like, well, yeah. Well, let me take a second. Let me
Honestly,
take
like,
a
just
a
look
mental
at him.
picture. Real quick.
I think I would just be like, I'd give him like a little like just like a tap on the shoulder. I'd just be
Literally.
like, I felt it. Like, I'd just be like,
No, bro.
You gotta watch out for his bodyguard, bro.
Honestly, that guy's
honestly,
crazy.
yeah,
That guy's
bodyguard was
crazy.
taking on me. I wouldn't even want to ask for his jersey at that point because I feel like, man, everyone's already gonna ask for a jersey. Everyone be like, Leo, I already know everyone's trying to ask for your jersey. Like, just give me like a shin guard or something.
I'm
like,
upset. You know what? I'm upset that we couldn't do like a Ronaldo Messi situation in MLS.
In
I wish
MLS,
that
yeah.
in a perfect world that would have happened.
yeah, I mean that would have sent the soccer world into a frenzy because
Him
you're-
at LA Galaxy. Ronaldo.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What would it be? LA or would it be like? No, he wouldn't play New York.
No. I think it's LA.
Can I
now.
ask? Maybe I don't. Was it? How annoying was it playing at Yankee Stadium?
oh, playing Yankee Stadium.
I still can't get over the fact. I think they figured something out for the future to get a soccer
have
specific stadium or something like that.
They have a stadium.
But that's got it.
So one, I barely played in it because I just didn't play.
That's
lot
why I was
in
a little
in
nervous to ask because I was like, I don't know if you played in it or
yeah,
not.
Yeah. I'm offended right now because you asked that question. No. But like, so I'll say this. I had coaches that hated it. Like my first coach there, like hated it, like absolutely hated it.
Was it
playing on the baseball because like the baseball
Who's
side
your
was
first
messed
coach?
up. Dome Turan, Spanish coach.
Yeah.
Hated it. But like I mean, it just was what it was. I don't think too many of our teammates really like necessarily complained about it so much. I don't think our team really complained about it so much. It's because the team just did so well on it for whatever reason, and it's still to this day like they just do so well on it. I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's because like it's your home stadium or whatever. But
I've always been curious. Did you guys practice?
we would never practice on it.
Not practice on Yankee, like on the Yankee Stadium field, but like the dimensions at practice.
They would make it.
That's
make it
so.
Yankee
That's
dimensions.
that's why.
Yeah,
that's why you were so good because you were so used to it.
Yeah. So in practice, when they knew we were playing at home, they would change the dimensions of the field to like replicate Yankee Stadium. So it'd be like I don't know how many yards it was.
I forget
like
what
more
it is.
narrow.
So it's not the same as a normal soccer. It wasn't
No.
the same. So
Because
how's
the
that
baseball.
loud,
It's a
though? How's
baseball.
that loud in
Because
the
the
league?
MLS, they
Really?
yeah.
I think
I
they.
had no idea.
I think the minimum standard is 70 feet wide.
Yeah.
And I think someone, this was years ago, so maybe it's changed. I think someone walked it and they were like, I barely got to 68 feet, 68 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It
And I think the
been
minimum
that
is
way.
70 yards wide. I think the length was okay. It was just the
Yeah.
width.
It
And the
could've been-
width was just not even,
Yeah.
that's a story I heard in a press box somewhere. It was
Yeah,
it was that they walked off the what should have been the 70 yards and they
Yeah.
just walking off for like I got the 68 and
It could have been. I mean, well, I'll say this. So I didn't have a lot of experience playing in Yankee Stadium in baseball, but in the USL, I had a lot of experience playing in baseball stadiums because, there was multiple teams that had their home stadiums, in baseball. And so, like, for me, it was like, one half would be great if you were in the outfield, like where the grass was, so perfect grass, like amazing. And then like the second half, like let's say, or wherever your position, then you're on that side where the baseball starts hitting, where the the dirt would be, and then
Right.
it's just like horrible grass, like just grass that's just laid on top of it, that's just gonna fly off. Balls are gonna be bouncing when you hit on that side of it. So that definitely wasn't fun, like playing in those fields where it just kind of like takes like the feel out of it, Like, when you're playing on like a nice stadium, like the soccer specific stadium with good grass, even if it's turf, whatever it might be, because the USL, there's like some stadiums that are nice when they're turf, which is fine. But when you're playing that baseball, it just kind of takes even the thing too in Yankee Stadium was like the fans are like further
That's
away
what I
because
in the
like
game it looked like on TV.
Yeah,
It
like
looked
the fans
a lot
aren't
further.
like there. Like like for example in these stadiums like Orlando City Stadium that I played in, like the fans are like right there on top of you, so you can hear everything. I remember the Orlando City, I was playing right back, so the fans are like right next to me the whole game, like you're horrible, like you never play. Like I swear they tell you these things and I'm like laughing in my head, like I never play. You're right, I'm playing right now though. But yeah, I mean, so it's different. I mean, Yankee Stadium, that's the one thing I always noticed. Like the fans just feel like so far away. Like they just feel so far away.
Yeah.
I think that's probably because it's a baseball stadium as opposed to a soccer stadium.
Well, yeah, it's because the layout.
Yeah,
of the field.
yeah.
It's just,
I think that makes
Just looks
sense.
awkward almost like.
Yeah.
Did you any big colleges you played?
I want to say, so I never played against like the top ACC schools, like whatever, like the Clemsons and the Big Ten schools. I played a lot of the Ivy schools, so Yale, Brown University, Harvard, Seton Hall was good, and all these teams are very good. Like whether they're not in the Big Ten or the top ACC schools, these guys are ballers, right? And I think when I played Seton Hall my freshman year, Pablo, I remember I texted you right after the game. I think we got pumped like 4-1 or something, maybe more. And I texted Pablo and I was like, these guys look familiar. And he was like, yeah, they played with me at the national team. So, like, going to the game, I'm a freshman, like, 18 years old. And I'm like, I'm marking two of the best, realistically, one of the best players in the, at the time in the country. And I was just like, they're going to have a field day against us. Like, these guys are very experienced. Don't know why they're in college. They shouldn't be in college. I don't know the reason for it, but it's crazy.
I was watching, I think it was Oregon State, Oregon State versus, Washington.
Okay.
College soccer?
College soccer. Yeah. I think it was Oregon State. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it was Oregon State. And one of the things the commentators in the game, one of the things they kind of kept saying was that, what they insinuated was that most of the players that were playing in that game had come from MLS club teams.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
Is that what you got?
Yeah,
the sense that
definitely.
you got?
No, definitely.
All these players that you're seeing in college, even at or let's call it just the Division I level, are they generally all coming from the same sort of pool of players?
It just depends, honestly. It depends on the coach that's at that college. Like, they have connections to maybe MLS academies that they try to pull kids from. And honestly, a lot of them are internationals. A lot of the players you play against, a lot of them are internationals. Like, especially in Division II, there's so many Division II schools that will go and play a low-average Division I team, and they will.
Well,
if
it's a free education in an
course,
American university, I mean, I'm not saying. Yeah, I mean, if it's a free education in an American university, why not, right?
Like, I think, so when I transferred schools to Clayton State, which is Division II, like I mentioned before, it's the best decision I ever made. So many good players on my team. We the second round of the NCAA tournament, we played against a school called Limestone, I think from South Carolina. And their striker played like against Mbappe or with him. Like, there's a photo of him with Mbappe and like a year ago, 2 years ago, and I'm just like, I didn't know at the time, but I was like, you see players like that just played for Barcelona's academy that just like maybe didn't make it up the ranks and they want a free education. They'll go play Division II soccer, just for, why not? And they're just unbelievable. Like you're just like, why are you here? Like it's crazy to see. Think about
crazy.
like it happens everywhere in college. Like a lot of the teams are majority like internationals.
And that's Division II?
Division II and 1, but mainly Division II, a lot of internationals. Division 1, the same thing. Like the roster is like 14, 15 internationals and maybe like 7, 8 Americans. Like,
is there a cap that you can only have a certain amount of international players on a
I don't know, but obviously there's a cap of scholarships, and a lot of those internationals are on scholarships for the most part. Depending.
I feel like
it's
it's probably not.
I don't think there is.
With the college situation, I don't think.
But
there
are the best schools in the country, like college soccer, like the Dukes or UNCs or Clemson's, like are all the kids on there like on full ride scholarships or no?
I don't know. I think it depends on the school. Like it's like I think it's like 11 cap scholarship, like full ride. So you have to split them out like 50% to this guy, 50% to this guy.
These guys are the DPs, the ones that.
Yeah, basically.
The DPs.
It's honestly, it's
starting 11 is on full rise. Everyone else, sorry.
Like, also,
walk on.
I don't know the exact rule, but like, there's so many times I'd be like in the starting 11, like they say your name, your age, where you're from, and like I'm a freshman, and they're like from Scandinavia, 28 years old, with like 2 sons.
What?
And I'm like, 28 years old freshman? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, how do you have eligibility? Like, how is this possible? I don't know.
You never went to college.
Yeah, I know, but it's just crazy to think about. I'm an 18-year-old freshman. This guy has probably like 2 sons at home, back at home.
Wait, but I thought it was like certain colleges, like the what's the
NAIA.
And I thought they can be however old, but I feel like
I don't know the rule, but I promise you that happens.
I don't know about specifically what college soccer, but I know that in it's rare, but it's not rare enough to where it's like holy moly. Every now and then you hear a story about a guy who played football all through high school. And then like something like joined the military, and didn't go to college, just joined the military, and then when he got out of the military, he then went to college, and turns out he's still a good football player.
Yeah,
really.
And so that happened with relatively recently, where he ended up going to the NFL, but he was going to the NFL at 28 as opposed to like 23.
Right.
Yeah.
So it does happen. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Like it's not at all surprising that
it's crazy.
that. I'm trying to think of the situation, like how your life goes, where at 28 you're just now starting college. It's not. Like, I'm not like putting it down or anything.
Yeah.
Go do what you
don't see
do.
it a lot. You
don't see it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is. I can totally see it. On the international like level when it comes to college soccer. I can 100% see that happening.
Yeah.
Because if you're you said Scandinavia.
He was like from Denmark or something. Yeah. Same.
I could see where you just you don't go to college, go do something for a little bit, or play very low division club soccer or something like that. Not a pro.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, you know what? I've got this avenue with American universities where I can go get even if you don't get a scholarship, go play soccer for the university and see what happens
just
after
enjoy
that.
and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's really crazy.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I mean, the European clubs. I guess this is a whole pay to play discussion, but we don't have to get into that super deep. But the way that youth soccer works, say just in England, I don't think it's like anything close to what we have here, right? Or is it similar? Or do you guys even know?
I don't think so.
It's different in the sense where, I from what I believe is that, these clubs in Europe will invest in the kids a little bit more, and like maybe that they have that they can play for free in Europe, because if the kid goes on to get signed by Manchester City's academy,
they get a certain percentage.
They get a compensation for bringing that kid to Manchester City's academy. Whether rather than here in the United States, if I play for Concord, let's say, and then I sign a pro deal, Concord's not getting.
But they've already gotten 4 or 5 years of you paying every year.
Exactly. So you have those positives in that sense for the clubs in Europe where they get compensated, whereas here in the United States, the clubs aren't getting that. But it's obviously pay to play. So I guess the positives here in the United States, positives you want to call it that, is that there's going to be more resources. There's going to be, more investment in the facilities and the games, the tournaments, and all that kind of stuff because these clubs are getting compensated for it. But the only downside of it is that, a lot of kids might not have access or being able to or will be able to play for these clubs just because they can't afford to spend thousands of dollars a year.
Do you think
at a club?
Is that how much it costs? Thousands of dollars a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've spoken to a lot of parents where it's like what they pay like $6,000, $7,000.
I don't know the exact price.
That much?
Yeah, they pay
I
a lot
think
of money,
when you get to like the ECNL, which is like one of the top leagues in the country, like when you start getting to that level, like U14, 15, 16, and then you have to. That's not even including like travel, like hotels for your parents.
I figure
not. Like it's like just like.
And even the farther your team goes, like if you make it to nationals or whatever, and you go to California to play in a tournament, you're having to fly out there, pay for a flight. Your parents are having to pay for a flight. You have to pay for the hotel. Even the parents pay for the coach's expenses. The parents will pay the coach.
Okay.
It's something I just learned. I didn't even know it was a thing.
I didn't think about it that way. In terms
of
the travel part of it.
It's a big thing. And so, kind of like one of the big.
But would you not have to do that? I guess the traveling wouldn't be that dramatic of a thing in a country like England or somewhere where you can.
It's
most places you can just take a bus
because it's smaller.
Yeah.
But then the thing is too is like these best players in these European countries are then moving into these to the academies of professional teams, so like Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, these youth academies where now these clubs are heavily investing in these kids in the hope that one or two of these are going to become a star. And when you're at a club like Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, you're going to have stars coming out of the youth. Barcelona even. Like you're going to, maybe 90% of them, will just go on to go wherever, whether it's not pro, whether it's pro for a smaller one, but then every once in a while you'll hit like a Lamine Yamal, or you'll hit like a, someone like that where like, you invested all your money into them, since they were, 10 years old. So now he's 16, 17, and now he's
worth
hundreds of millions of dollars now. Whereas in, the United States,
he's the new hotness, man.
Exactly. Where, as in the United States, you could have a Lamine Yamal where, you're investing or not investing in him, where the parents are paying for this, and then he goes on to sign wherever he signs, and
there's no skin in the game for the actual club
there's
itself.
No skin. There's nothing for that. So I mean, I don't know how you can change it, or I know that there needs to be a change, and there's a lot of people that advocate for it, and I agree. There's a lot of people that advocate for that kids shouldn't have to pay to play, right? And then there's a lot of kids that are really talented soccer players, but they can't be in these systems. Because it's cost so much, and even like
here's why I don't disagree with you, but I do think that the counter argument would be that if you get rid of pay for play, that and you have all these, let's just say none of the club teams decide, every club team that's out there that would normally be paid to play is just they just stick around and they don't close down, which I don't think would happen. I think a lot of them would close down. All of a sudden, you would have all these club programs going after the best of the best kids they can have. So there's gonna be a lot of kids that wouldn't play because they're not good enough. What they can do is, I mean, maybe they can eventually develop, but what they can do is pay to play with these club teams and then hopefully develop into something. But if you cut that pay out, then I think the argument is that some of those kids are going to get left behind.
Yeah. It's tricky. But even like, for example, when we played for Georgia United, one of the big things about the development academy that they recently stopped, but the big thing was that you didn't have to pay for it. Like, so when they started that whole, when U.S. Soccer launched that whole DA, and everyone was, my national team coaches, like they're all like, you need to be playing DA. Was the whole reason was that you're going to be playing in the fall and you're going to be playing in the spring. You're going to be playing year round. You weren't going to play high school in the spring. But
at that point, they've already know, okay, this guy's got some talent, right?
Well, exactly. But then the best players go into that environment. So Georgia United was like the best player. So it was like UFA, NASA, and Concord. No, it was like UFA, NASA, Norcross. They merged into Georgia United. And then, so obviously the best players from those organizations are going to make that team. And then some other players from other, like, for example, I didn't come from any of those organizations. We came from GSA. But, the best players are going to play in that environment because, it's a – and then, there were some players – like there was players on my teams that they couldn't have been in that environment if they had to pay for it because their parents didn't have any money. But they were able to play in that environment because it was free and they were able to, to play at that high level. Rather than if they, let's say they hypothetically had to pay to be in that environment, they probably wouldn't have gotten the best kids because those best kids can't play in an environment like that.
Yeah.
And then who knows how that would have affected their development growing up, because like we talked about, you need to be playing in the highest levels. But if you don't have the money to play at the highest levels, how are you supposed to develop as much as you truly can develop because you can't play at that level because you can't afford it?
Yeah. I have a feeling that the best solution to at least mediate the development problem in the United States. I don't even know that at this point there is not that there's not a problem. The problem isn't as obvious now because you have so many look at how many players are playing in Europe right now.
Right.
Clearly something is working. I would assume, right? Or
100%.
100%. Okay. But I'm not saying that the solution is to get rid of pay for play, but I also think that there probably needs to be some kind of
No, of course, yeah. I'm not saying that
something like in the middle where there maybe pay for play still exists, and then there's something else that's more akin to to the free academies in Europe. I don't think I think the reason pay to play exists is because, and I don't think it's just like clubs are greedy. I think that it's just a business model.
Well, a lot of clubs are really greedy.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're not. But
a lot of clubs are really, really greedy.
I'm not saying they're not. But I'm saying the business model itself. It's not that it's just that they're greedy and they want you to pay. They want you to pay for everything. I'm not saying that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But the business model of a pay to play system that like we have here is I think more than anything. Maybe I'm romanticizing a little bit, but more than anything, to give as many people a chance to play that can afford it. And I think more people,
that's fair.
More people can afford it
than people that can't afford it.
I see what you're
more
saying
people can
in a way.
afford it. More people are willing to pay for it for the opportunity to play at a higher level or to develop higher level.
To invest in it.
To invest in it,
yeah.
Than not. And what you are the other side of that scale is that you're going to have some players that can't pay for it that are worth putting the investment in.
Yeah.
Maybe there's just I think there's a good balance you got to reach, and I think maybe there's a situation, there's a scenario where I just don't know how you do that. I don't know how you I don't know how you massage the situation to where it's you appease all the people that want that don't really see a problem with pay to play. I think most people see a problem with pay to play, but I just don't know how you get rid of it.
Right.
I guess that's the
It's
that's
difficult.
my I don't care either way. I think the development of the U.S. soccer is on the up, and I think okay, well that's a good sign. Clearly we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Or at least we're moving in that direction. I just don't know that the solution is to get just rid of it all and start from scratch and everything's free now. I don't know that that's the solution either, because I think that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm also not the expert on the subject.
I think it's gonna take numerous amount of years to figure something out to change it. But we were blessed to have at least Pablo for a little bit, to have an opportunity to play for free at a certain point. They obviously changed the rules in the DA, and I kind of want to touch about that really quick. How crazy the DA was at the time. Like Pablo, your team at the U16, remember U14? Like there were so many, and a lot of kids don't really know. And for those OG Georgia United fans or people that played against them or with them, is his 99-00 year, 99-98, they had such good talent. Like, you're talking about my brother, you're talking about Andrew Carlton, you're talking about Chris Goslin, Charlie Asensio. Like, there was the pool in Georgia at that time was, I've never seen anything like it. It was honestly like watching Prime Barcelona at a youth level. Like, I remember looking up to these guys and watching them, and it was just the soccer they played. Like, the year you guys made the run into the DA playoffs, competing against Vancouver Whitecaps, against MLS academies that had resources. There,
we were not to like brag, but we were so good that in those semifinals, we were just the only club that wasn't MLS. That wasn't MLS. Like, so you have the Red Bulls, you have the Philadelphia Union, you have FC Dallas, and then it was us. So like we were like the underdogs, obviously, because we're just Georgia United. We're not like MLS affiliated. All these MLS academies are going to have the best players, of course, because MLS Academy is huge. But we just had such a good squad that like we just competed with these guys.
You had what, like four national? You had think about 3 or 4 national team players on one local small club, not small club, but Georgia United. Having 3 or 4 national players on one team is, for me, unheard of. Like it's crazy, and to grow up and watch that was insane.
Yeah. The DA did things really well. I mean, I don't know why U.S. Soccer, changed a lot of things. Well, I mean, I think it's because they want to centralize the MLS next,
MLS,
so that the kids can be in those MLS environments. I mean,
It was structured very well though. Like it was
it was. I thought
definitely
things
road
were
to pro or
I
road to playing college.
You know,
was huge.
I thought things were doing pretty well because you obviously had the MLS teams and then you had the clubs as well, like just the clubs that weren't affiliated with MLS, and you had good talents there as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously the youth soccer in the United States is constantly changing and it's constantly taking different directions. It's just where U.S. soccer wants to take it. And we will see within the next years how it all kind of pans out. But I mean, like you said, I mean, it is moving in a positive forward direction. Because you look at our national team and it's doing well, and you look at some other like for example, like you look at Mexico, for example, that's struggling. And then you have a U.S. national team that's doing well.
I'm not saying it's in like the best place possible, but I am saying is that clearly something is going right because we have all these players. And I guess my gauge is just the number of players going off to getting paid to play in Europe.
Yeah.
Not even just going off to the academies or whatever. It's the number of players that are actually making some kind of a name for themselves. Whether most of them good, there are a few examples of not so good, but that's my gauge. The national team is the whole different story because those are just games.
Right.
That's not full on development.
Yeah.
So I think just for the sake of the conversation, I just don't know that there's a solution that's going to, or a talking point or a discussion point or anything like that that's going to move that needle for U.S. soccer enough to where it changes the current model of what's going of the development of youth soccer in the United States. I just don't know that there's ever going to be enough traction or enough evidence to suggest that one model is better than the other or that we can convert what we're doing now to something else. I think that we're kind of stuck with what we got, and I think we have to work around that to fill in the void of whatever the cons are to having a pay-for-play system.
Yeah,
and there definitely are some. I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah,
but whether it's scholarships or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the solution is, but I just don't think you're getting away from the from
the system,
from the moneymaker
changing,
that is
sure.
youth soccer in the United States.
it's a big moneymaker.
Yeah.
What else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, no, it is a
Little full disclosure: we started at like 10 o'clock. It's 11. It's 11:34 now.
Really?
And so
we've been for an hour and a half.
That's crazy.
about an hour and a half. Yeah. Oh shoot! Did I just screw this up? I might have just accidentally ended on purpose. We're still recording the audio, so that's that.
Oh, but the video's done.
The video might be done.
Okay, that's fine.
That might be my fault. I'm trying to see if it'll continue the recording.
Would you have to start a new one?
No, I mean it's fine. We were
Yeah.
gonna wrap up anyway, but
We
I
can
guess just to make it more official, how I started the last interview we did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do the tail end of the version. Right, technical difficulties, and it really spoiler alert, it was just me just messing with my phone and messing up the camera. So that's that. Cool. Well,
I guess we'll wrap it up there.
yeah.
I think good conversations. First one kind of announcing what we want to get out of this, and
That's why I'm here. I'm here for the good vibes and
Yeah,
the good conversations about U.S. soccer and y'all's experience and well, I guess not youth soccer, but U.S. soccer, but more specifically development and at least from my experience and talking to some interesting people that have stories about how they got to where they were and where they are now and hopefully where they will be.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited for the route me and Pablo are going at. We're only at the start, right? And we want to keep impacting lives, changing lives, keep growing ourselves, keep growing our names, and kind of expanding. And it's super exciting for sure. So,
I think we still are recording, but we're recording individually. We're not recording live anymore.
Okay.
But cool. Yeah. All right. So, how did we end last time? Did we just end it?
we just ended it.
I forget how we ended it.
Yeah.
We said,
All right,
see you
well,
next time. More content coming soon.
More content.
See you later,
coming
people.
soon.
Sorry you're looking at a black screen right now, but see you later.